Dive into the pulse of Bills football with Turf to Tape, where veteran sideline reporters Sal Capaccio and film room guru Eric Turner deliver a one-of-a-kind podcast experience, combining Sal's unparalleled access to players and coaches with Eric's razor-sharp film breakdowns. The show bridges the gap between casual fans and hardcore enthusiasts. This is Turf to Tape.
This is Turf to Tape, presented by Thin Man Brewery. I'm your host, Eric Turner, as always, joined by my man, Sal Capaccio. What's going on, Sal? Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon to you too, man. It is beautiful here in Western New York. It is just, we are enjoying some really incredible weather, and I think it's going to continue into Sunday night. I'm looking at like 80 degrees in Buffalo during the day on Sunday, Eric.
Yeah, no complaints here. This is that perfect transition from summer to fall where the weather is just moderately beautiful, sunny, nice little breeze. I mean, good weather for just about anything you want to do outside. Right. Still, we've been lucky so far. I'm sure that a lot of fans enjoyed this game, the Bills Saints game that we're going to recap in that beautiful weather at the Highmark Stadium last weekend.
I think that, that's a part of the storyline last week. It's really, there are only two scheduled 1 p.m. Sunday afternoon games at Highmark Stadium. Probably will be a third with the Jets at the end of the year. You never know. And I think that is a part of the storyline where really you only get so many chances left in this stadium to go to a 1 p.m. game, or really overall with the Bills and how they resonate around the league now. They're on primetime all the time, including this week. So if you think about it, this will be the fourth home game already, and 3 will be in prime time. You got Sunday night against the Ravens, Thursday night against the Dolphins, and this one coming up against the Patriots. That's the world we live in after playing Sunday at 1 o'clock every week for many years.
Yeah, no doubt. Again, we're going to recap Bills Saints, a 31-19 win by the Bills at home, and a game that I felt like afterwards a lot of fans were sort of disappointed in this team. And we're going to talk about obviously both sides of the ball. I want to get your overall feelings from this game. What was it like in the stadium? Because there were some lulls on offense, there were some lows on defense. What was the feeling at the stadium down on the sideline?
Yeah, I think it was really a little bit of, oh my gosh, like what's happening here, a few times from the collective crowd. You could kind of feel that tension in the air. I don't know if it got to the level of people really think they'd lose the game. You'd have to ask people specifically, but I know for me personally, I've been in many of these kinds of games and watching. I remember a game, let's say like the playoff game against Miami here against Skylar Thompson, right after the Dolphins take the lead. You're like, oh my God, could this really happen? But you had the faith the Bills would come back because they had the ability to do it, but they have to have the opportunity to match that ability. And in this one, the Saints had a play where they could have taken the lead. They didn't. Brandon Cooks, his touchdown, that wasn't a touchdown. But even then you felt, okay, the Bills still have Josh Allen, but you wanted to see more. You wanted to see this offense, really hit its stride and its ceiling. And we haven't seen that. And I think that's where people are a little bit kind of let down or disappointed or feeling like they're wanting more right now. Not satisfied, I guess, right, Eric? That's the way to put it, I think, with some of the things that we're seeing in the NFL or with the Buffalo Bills. But in the NFL, you go against teams every week that have professional football players and they're getting paid and they're coming up with a game plan to try and beat you. And at the end of the day, if it says that you won the football game, you take that, you move on, you try to fix the things that you didn't like in that game.
And I think the question marks about this team this early in the season really showed up again, and we're on full display in a bad way in this game. On offense, there was a moment in that second quarter where the Bills ran 14 plays for something like 5 yards. So extreme lows, right? And I'm sure that contributed to the fans' disappointment, especially when you're considering the opponent. And on defense, I mean, 189 rushing yards, 165 yards after contact, third most by a team since 2018, according to Next Gen. I'm sure those lows on both sides of the ball, and they really confirmed some of the question marks a lot of fans had on both sides of the ball as well.
Yeah, for sure. And every Tuesday, so we're doing this live and recording it on Tuesday. Every Tuesday, if the Bills play on the following Sunday, it's basically my day off. But my day off consists of things I love to do, which is look at the stats, right? And look at the numbers and dive in. And I post them every Tuesday. I post the rankings, right? The Bills rankings every Tuesday.
Yeah.
Which is where they rank on offense and defense, yards, running, passing, all those kinds of things. And it's always really interesting to watch the responses. And typically I can predict a lot of the responses when I see what I saw today, which is run defense is still near the bottom of the league. And that is a major, oh my gosh, response. Can't believe it. Here we go. Run defense again. The pass defense is number 1 in the NFL. Yards per game, yards per play. I don't disagree with anybody who says, well, they haven't played the most world-beating of quarterbacks in Justin Fields or Spencer Rattler. They also played Tua. They also played Lamar Jackson. And at the end, when you put it all together, you have to take into account all of these stats. Third down defense has not been good for the Bills, but a lot of that is based on that one game against Miami where they gave up 10 of 15 third downs. Otherwise, they've been pretty good through the other 3 games, including this game, by the way. In this game, the Saints were 5 of 13 on third down. And if you add the 2 fourth downs they went for, they were 5 of 15 on third and fourth down, right? So the Bills actually did a really good job. It didn't feel like they were doing the good job because I think the expectation has been set so high by this team and for the fan base that's why they wanted more out of this. But if you can say, all right, we're number 1 in pass defense, but we're near the bottom in run defense, and if that gets you to the middle, then what you need is a really good offense to make sure that you kind of can take care of this team have an elite offense. And what we didn't see on Sunday was the offense play at the elite level that it should consistently, especially in the second quarter. And that's where people were wanting more.
Yeah, and I totally get that. And you're right. My question is, would you rather have the team be very good against a pass or very good against a run? Obviously, it's a passing league, but there's a tit for tat thing there too. Okay, what the teams are running it down your throat, they're not going to be passing as often. But what I will say about this defense, it's similar to last year where the saving grace was turnovers. Well, the Bills aren't really getting those turnovers. They're not getting those havoc plays, but the very few that they've had when they've needed to make a stop has been in crucial moments. When they've needed to make a play or get an interception, we're talking about Cole Bishop. We're talking about Terrell Bernard. That the defense has stood up when they've needed to, even with, again, some of these bad numbers when we're talking volume stats and how much they're giving up on the ground to opposing offenses.
Yeah, no doubt about it. The statistic of the Bills not turning the ball over for close to 600 snaps in 9 games, basically, that is gone because Josh Allen threw an interception. However, the statistic, it's still, I believe, an NFL record right now, 26 straight games where they haven't lost the turnover battle. It looked like they might lose the turnover battle until Cole Bishop has that interception. Of course, they didn't. They were even in the turnover battle, and that matters. And you're right. They're not getting those havoc plays, taking the ball away. What they are doing is still not turning the ball over. Yeah. Yes, Josh threw an interception. But one thing the Bills are very good at is not turning the ball over. And that's going to really help you have a recipe for success. One of the reasons why this game also kind of was a little bit uneven, an inside the numbers kind of stat is field position was terribly lopsided in this game.
Bad, yeah.
I mean, the Saints average drive start was, I tweeted out, I think like 37? Yeah, 39 maybe, somewhere in there. The Bills was like their own 25. But anyway, there's it was like a 12-yard difference. Like those things, that's a first down plus when you think about and how many possessions you have, a first down plus, that's like 70 yards basically in yardage. Those are little things that matter and how you have to play the game differently.
No doubt about it. I mean, it's one of those things that when opposing teams want to play the Bills, they know the Bills aren't going to turn it over often. They're not going to make many mistakes. They're going to wait for you to make mistakes. So they have to win all those little things, those marginal areas, special teams. You're going to see, obviously field position is kind of baked into that. But let's talk about this offense. In that second quarter, again, it was awful. And that field position was really one of the main factors in this game. It wasn't ideal. Drive starts for the Bills in the second quarter was on average at their 12-yard line. There were drives that started at the 21, the 13, the 3, and then 20. Again, in the second quarter, 0.9 yards per play in the second quarter. Allen was 2 for 6 for like 4 yards, and he gave up 2 sacks. They gave up 2 sacks. So aside from the field position being an issue, what other things come to mind for some of the offensive lulls that we've seen with the Bills so far in 4 games?
Well, pass protection was what, to me, the poorest of what we've seen from this team in some time. And there was a change at right tackle due to Spencer Brown's injury, Ryan Vandermark. I thought Ryan Vandermark actually played very well in the run game, but he wasn't. He had gotten beat a couple times in the passing game.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just on him. It's a good front. They're actually top 10 in the league in sacks per pass attempt, I believe, the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah.
But pass protection was not as up to the standard as what we've seen from this team. And that hurt. And that caused Josh to be also under duress a little bit. He had to scramble out a little bit. So I think that was something that hurt them. Now this is game plan stuff, but the tight ends weren't as involved in the passing game in this game, right? They only targeted tight ends 3 times in this game, Eric. Only 2 catches for tight ends. Jackson Hawes with 1, of course, Dalton Kincaid with the big touchdown. So game script, the game plan, everything kind of maybe made it. If you're going to rely on your outside receivers to win, but you can't hold up in pass protection, that's not going to be a recipe for success.
And I referenced that second quarter, and AQ's in there throwing out some great points about their struggles in that first half. And what I thought the Saints did was they became very aggressive when they saw that the Bills were getting backed up. They sent a lot more interior stunts and slanters to get the offensive line off the same plane, because that's what offensive line, what they want to do. They want to stay in the same plane, so when those stunts come, they can pass them off easily. And I thought the Saints did a great job, specifically of going after Vandermark at right tackle, but also Torrance. What they did was they occupied McGovern in the left side, and they isolated Torrance and RVD on the right side, and they ran some twists. They obviously had some good matchups with some of their players on that side. Carl Granderson smoked Torrance at the right guard in that quarter, and Josh was under pressure 62.5% of the time in the second quarter alone. That quarter where the Bills offense kind of went out of, was definitely lost for that first half. I think that second quarter is really, really where the struggles were.
Yeah, and the Bills did not convert third downs. So we go back to what we said on defense. The Bills did actually a better job, real nice job on third down numbers wise, only 5 of 13 conversions for the New Orleans Saints. But if you look at the Buffalo Bills on the offensive side, they didn't convert their third downs. They were 3 for 10 in this game. I want to go and look with that. So that's 30%. They were not great against the Jets, 35.7%, 5 of 14. They were over 50% against the Dolphins and close to 50% against the Baltimore Ravens. Those are nice numbers. If you could be close to 50% on third downs, that's great. When you're only converting 3 out of 10, that's not good enough. And that causes you to obviously give the ball to the other team. And then, things can go awry from there. So those are some of the issues that hurt them. And by the way, penalties too, right? The Bills had penalties that caused them to negate some nice gains, especially at the end of the half when they're trying to. I mean, McDermott uses timeouts to get the ball back. They wind up getting the ball back because the Cole Bishop interception, I believe, right at that time. My timeline is right here. But because there's a penalty on the Cole Bishop return, they get backed up. Then there's a nice gain and a backup. Then another nice gain and a backup. They couldn't actually advance the ball to try and score at the end of the half like they wanted to because they kept having penalties against themselves.
No doubt about it. Yeah, that was another factor there. So with all that said, the Bills still put up over 30 points for the 4th time this year. What is it about Joe Brady's offense that makes them so difficult to defend? Because all of these critiques, and he kind of, made reference to it in his presser yesterday, like, there's a lot of critiques being thrown at him, being questions that being asked for fans. And with all that said, they're still one of the best offense, if not the best offense in the league right now.
I mean, I wanted the same thing. Right after the game, I said to both Matt Bove and Josh Reed, and separately, I said, I have a question for you guys. How does this team look like that and then still score 31 points? It's amazing, right? Like, it's the perception of that they looked like that, because yes, there were struggles. There's no doubt. I'm not telling you that was perfect, but the bar is so high that even when they have those struggles, I think it just magnifies everything. They scored 31 points in each of the last 2 games. And in both games, I don't think that anybody really felt that they played their best football. Right. Even Josh Allen would tell you that, because I know he was on the field with Josh at the end of the game, Josh Reed, and Josh said, is there another level? And Allen responded, absolutely there is. So there is another level for that. What is it about this offense? We all know the number one reason, and that is they have number 17. They have the MVP of the league. They have arguably the best football player in the league, whatever. He's amazing. But Eric, I'm here to tell you, I think James Cook is a superstar. He is so much better right now than maybe I've ever thought he was or given him credit for. And I always thought he's pretty good, but even me, like, even when I thought going through the contract stuff, not that I thought they should get rid of him or anything like that, but I always felt, boy, you can't overpay. That's a spot where you put guys in and you'll be okay. No. This guy is at an elite level right now. And that is a huge reason why they're still able to put up 31 points, because when he has the ball in his hands, he can move the chains and he can make things happen. And he, of course, can get in the end zone.
What's amazing about Cook and how he's taken to a next level, I think his OC, Joe Brady, also has a lot to do with that. And this offense starting this year has kind of morphed into something that we normally see late in the year in December and going into the playoffs, where, hey, you're seeing a lot more Reggie Gilliam. Hey, you're seeing a lot more, tight ends. Well, they started this year with that. So far through the first 4 games, the Bills run 22 personnel, 2 running backs, 2 tight ends, 14.1% of the time. That's first overall in the league. 13 personnel, 1 running back, 3 tight ends, 8.4% of the time. That's 5th most. And then 21 personnel, 2 running backs, 1 tight end, 8%, 8th overall. A big shift in some of those multiple tight end sets, but also getting Gilliam on the field and those 22 personnel
Yeah.
sets, like that is a different identity than what we've seen in prior years. They sprinkle it in later in the year when the weather would turn. This year, it's their identity. I'm sure it has a lot to do with not just, James Cook and how he's running, but you're adding Jackson Hawes and his blocking, and they're using him a little more, and obviously Alec Anderson a little less. So it's a different, adaptation of offense. But I think when you go to those personnel groupings and you condense the sets and you're running power and you're running counter and some old school concepts, and you have a guy like James Cook that is running and is patient and he's slippery, he's doing great things. And I just love the combination of his skill set with what they have personnel wise and concept wise up front.
Yeah, to answer, we have in the chat, John says O-line doesn't get enough credit for Cook's success. I mean, not from us. I mean, they do. We give them a lot of credit. I think they're one of the best O-lines in the league. I think they're a fantastic coach. I'm just here to tell you that James Cook individually is amazing to watch, and the way his vision is incredible. Eric, I think, didn't you play running back, Eric? You were running back.
I did. Right? Yeah, I did.
I mean, you can speak to this. The vision, to have that peripheral vision to sense people and know people, are almost like he can see people coming out of his ear hole, right? And I mean, it's crazy. And he knows where people are coming from, and he can move around that. It's incredible. His contact balance is incredible. So there's no doubt. I want to go to the personnel groupings you talked about. And you're right. The Bills, they really do. They like to run 13. The Bills are very good in 12, obviously, what they like to do. And they've actually been highly successful in 11 this year, which is pretty amazing when you think about that. But I think the biggest thing for me is they just have options. It's not, they're not so reliant on one. They have options. They can throw 3 tight ends. They can go 2 tight ends, no tight ends. They can do so many things. And I really think the Bills are playing the long game this season. What I mean by that is they're doing everything. And when it comes time for, we're going to have our best stuff, they're going to have a real large sample set.
A large menu too.
Right? Of what their best stuff is. And they can get to that a lot sooner and a lot better.
And that's a great point, because that menu, that volume, and we're not just talking concepts, we're talking personnel groupings. That's a lot to prepare for. Yep. So you're preparing for several different groupings. How you're going to match it up? How can you keep the advantage as a defensive coordinator with your personnel? And not only you have to worry about that and sending in the proper personnel to match, but now you got to match concepts with your defensive structures. On top of that, the thing about this offense is, hey, they can run double tight, go under center, run I, and go old school concepts. But at the same time, they can go power spread, get everyone the same personnel grouping, heavy personnel grouping, spread them out and run the ball, pass the ball, because they have so much talent at the tight end positions, at the running back positions. It's a roll of the dice when they have to be so difficult to defend.
Yeah. And I think that what can happen though sometimes, and when you have those options, sometimes maybe you can get a little too creative, a little too cute. Probably did that on the 4th down, right? The 4th down play to Khalil Shakir. Now, maybe if Vandermark doesn't trip, maybe it does actually work. But that's a thing where I'm like, look what we just said about James Cook. In that situation, I'd like to see James Cook take the ball, right? So I think sometimes you have to remember what you're great at, and not just that you have all these options at your disposal, and just do the thing that you're the best at in that moment. And maybe that's where some of that criticism comes in from Joe Brady. But I don't think that's unique around the league. We've been doing it for football for decades and decades. That's been a criticism of any offensive coordinator, and still will continue to be, no matter who it is and what team it is.
There are definitely critiques about this offense and nitpicking we can do each and every Monday after the game. But for some perspective, the Bills on EPA per play are 1st overall. Throw EPA, they're 5th overall. Rush EPA, 3rd overall. Pass success percentage, 6th. Rush success percentage, 2nd. Touchdowns per drive, 1st. And 3 and out percentage. This is a big one. They're 6th. So very, very good offense so far. And I'm excited to see the direction of this offense. And one guy, Sal, I want to talk about next is Khalil Shakir. He is our tapped-in player of the game, presented by Thin Man Brewery. Khalil Shakir, the safety blanket for Josh, it seems, week in and week out. And a guy that when you put the ball in his hands, whether it's unfortunately the 4th and 2 call that Joe Brady had, or the screenplay, just a simple screenplay at the line of scrimmage, he can house it. And you saw that last weekend.
And then what happened off the screenplay? They throw it to Dalton Kincaid.
Yes.
Right. I mean, like that's great creativity. I don't see people giving Joe Brady a ton of credit for that, but that's great, right? You set that up, it works, and that's how you hit the touchdown a little bit later. Real quick, so everybody knows, when Eric says EPA, expected points added, basically is what it is. And that just means historical data says in this situation, this down and distance, this field position, You run that play. Here's what your expected outcome should be. The Bills are over that in so many of the metrics. That's basically what it's saying and what Erik is telling you. Khalil Shakir is a pinball. That's what he is. He's a pinball. The guy just bounces off people and goes back for more. He bounces again and he slips tackles and he's shaky and slippery and he spins around. It's unbelievable to watch him. It really is unbelievable to watch him. And on this touchdown, I mean, this thing, he was like a freight train running by me at the very end of this. So I'm standing right at the goal line because the Bills are kind of going down that way or right near the goal line.
Yeah.
And, it's Khalil Shakir. He makes so much happen with his legs after this. And as you can see, here's great. Look at those blocks.
Yeah.
I mean, this is okay. Can you rewind it just for 1 second? I just want to say, when the Bills talk about everybody eats, it does not have to deal with all the time just catching passes. This is everybody eats. This is you block, we succeed. You block for me, I catch. I block for you, you catch. We all succeed. This is everybody eats right here. I know it sounds weird because it's blocking, right? Watch these two blocks. It's unbelievable. This is what you're talking about. You get out in space. There's Khalil, body on body, body on body. And they're blocking these guys. That's Shavers and Kincaid right there, I believe, right? Who they are. And then Khalil Shakir does the rest by breaking a tackle because he's just Khalil Shakir and he has that contact balance, which is incredible. And then again, stays on his feet. And where's Dalton Kincaid? Oh, I'm going to go get another guy, by the way. I'm going to get another guy.
Find and work. I love it. And again, this is just a simple play where, okay, this is, again, it's not condensed formation. It's not power old school football. Guess what? They're getting spread out now on defense, and it's just a numbers game. Sometimes football is just a numbers game and finding space. And so you see Kincaid and Shavers block, and so you got a hat on a hat. So basically, now Shakir, just based on the motion, now not only did the Bills get a hat on a hat blocking out front, but now you got leverage because you have leverage on the third guy that's coming to the party, Demario Davis, who's a talented linebacker in this league.
Yep.
And so you have a little leverage, have a little space for Shakir, and then you have the skill set, and you have that specialness, that contact balance, and ability to maintain his balance through contact, thanks to his low center of gravity, and then the speed to break it down. Again, everybody eats, and you love to see it because there are plays and times where it's not Shakir, and that's Dalton Kincaid. There are times where that's Curtis Samuel. Sometimes that's James Cook out there just finding time and space within the structure of the offense and just getting it to anyone that is willing to put in the work to block for others and so that everyone can eat. I mean, just a special play from Shakir in the Bills offense.
Where he breaks that tackle, by the way, is right at the first down. So let's just say the tackle's made. It's another first down, though, right? Like the play was a success no matter what. Once that happened, it just got to be a much bigger success because of Khalil Shakir's ability. And if you watch here again, look, he makes through, bam, he's getting a first down right there, right? But instead, he takes it the rest of the way. He takes it to the house, and the Bills score. And by the way, a little close to dropping that ball.
Yeah.
Gotta make sure he holds on to that ball, man. I got a great story for you. So, like, when I was really young, I started playing football when I was in third grade. I was on the 65-pound team. Eric, they let me weigh in with all my equipment because I weighed less than 65 pounds, right? And, back in the Pop Warner days. And I remember, at a game one time, we're playing a game. And, the markings on those fields, they're not like traditional markings because it's an 80-yard field and all that. And I remember I thought I scored a touchdown. I was in, but I wasn't in the end zone yet. So I slowed down and someone tackled me. I'm like, what? I'm like a little kid, right? I'm crazy. And the coach's like, you didn't get to the end zone. The end zone's over here. From that day, I'm telling you, it's a true story. From that day, I was in third grade. I'd scored some touchdowns in my life in high school football and all that. I literally would run through the end zone through the back of the end zone. And I always felt like a weirdo if I did that because I was still sprinting through the back of the end zones. I never wanted that to happen to me again.
It's like Forrest Gump.
Yes, exactly right.
Running into the tunnel.
That's right.
No, Khalil Shakir, awesome play early in that game. Again, amazing contact balance by him. He led the Bills with 5 targets, 5 receptions, 69 yards, 1 touchdown. That 43-yard screen pass that he took to the house had a 35.3 yards after catch over expected per next gen stat. So basically he got 35 plus yards over than what is normally expected of that simple screenplay, as talking about, alluding to what you had just talked about a little while ago, Sal, with him. So awesome tapped in segment presented by Thin Man Brewery. And if you guys haven't heard, Thin Man Brewery has a new friend that they're bringing to the party. Big things are brewing. The fan favorite Pils Mafia is getting a bold rebrand and is bringing back up, introducing Mafia Light. It's a new tailgate essential. Mafia Light hits different with just 3.5% ABV and only 80 calories per 12-ounce can. Drinks like water with notes of beer. Take a look at Let's take a look for this product at your local grocery stores now. Appreciate Thin Man Brewery hanging with us, and we got some cool stuff planned in the future with them. Some podcast stuff we're gonna be doing on scene back in Western New York very, very soon. So keep an eye out for that as well. So, Sal, anything on the offensive side that you want to touch on before we flip the script and go to defense?
No, let's talk about the defense and some of the things that have popped up people are talking about.
So on defense, bad stuff happened in the run game. 5.9 yards per rush. If you're looking just at running backs only, because QB scrambles were a factor here, we're going to talk about that too. For running backs only, they averaged 5.2 yards per rush, 3.94 yards post contact per rush, 10 tackles avoided, 10 tackles missed. Some sites it's 10, some it's 12. Either way, the Bills tackling was not good. So what is with the tackling woes? Because that is really what stood out when I went and rewatched this game, the tackling. What is the issue that is with this scheme, with this personnel that comes up week in and week out when it comes to stopping the run?
It's a really good question. And I think obviously if the Bills knew that, they'd fix it immediately, but it is non-negotiable. You have to tackle in football. Yeah. It is a non-negotiable thing. You can't just be not good at tackling. You can't miss tackles. They're going to happen. Everybody's going to miss tackles at some point. You hope that you have very few of them in a game, but that's a non-negotiable, just like pre-snap penalties are non-negotiable.
Yeah.
You just can't have those things. You have to tackle. If the Bills tackle better, their numbers against the run would be way better than what they are, right? What I see sometimes from field level is I just think players are not under control enough, Eric. When I watch a guy get to a spot, he's getting to a spot, and instead of breaking down, I think about this, and it's easier said than done, right? I'm the guy on the sidelines watching. I understand that. Like, I think about this play for Joey Bosa when he missed Kamara in the backfield.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if Joey Bosa just breaks down a little bit, just slows down, he's got Kamara. And if not, he's got enough of him until the cavalry arrives, right? But because he's going 100 miles an hour and he's just going right at him, he just swipes at him, Kamara goes, and there's nobody left home. I think at times, and I get it, you want to play as fast as possible, but these are open field tackles they're missing sometimes too.
Right.
I think you have to be under control a little more when you get to the party.
Yeah, he had a rough game. 3 missed tackles.
Yeah.
He has 6 missed tackles through 4 games, leads a team. Not only was he missing tackles, but the other issue that have come up with just, with the missed tackles, especially in this game, was gap integrity. It's always a buzzword when we're talking run defense. So missed tackles, there were times where he took a risk where he shot the inside gap when he should have been contained, and he was missing a tackle.
I have not liked his contain all year. Going back to the game against the Ravens, the game against the Dolphins, I just think his contain has not been where it should be.
It hasn't, and he takes too many risks. He will spike inside and try to blow up a play, and then next thing you know, you have the running back going outside as he loses contain. You saw him stay home on the second time they run that little counter bash where you saw Kamara come across the formation and go, take the sweep outside. You saw him the first time completely blow it. The second time he stays out there and then he stops his feet and he doesn't make the tackle, and Kamara gets 10 plus yards on that play. So he had a rough game. The thing with the missed tackles that seems to come up week in and week out, and it's tied to gap integrity, is yes, there's a lot of motions and shifting going on to this defense, and teams, offenses try to tax the Bills because they're so regimented in their check system and their play calls. We talked about, we laud it at times, and their one gap system and ability to play fast. Well, sometimes that one gap system actually does come back to bite them. For example, that touchdown that they scored early in the game by Miller, 2 guys had shots at that running back. Taron Johnson was in the hole. The Bills actually sent a run blitz. They had a run blitz called off the right side and off the left side of the defense, right side of the offense. And Taron Johnson got to meet Miller in the hole, but the hole was large because they blitzed. So guys were slanting. There's a nice little chasm in the middle of the defense. Now you got a nickel versus a 220-pound back. He misses the tackle. And then Rapp coming from distance. You talk about breaking down. Rapp has had issues where this wasn't there last year, where he would come from depth and he would make the tackle last year. He missed a tackle. And so I think it comes down to, yes, some of it's just, technique, form tackling and lack thereof, or they're playing too fast because that's the system. Some of it is, hey, okay, it's a one gap system. All right, can that one gap player, can Taron Johnson make the guy, bring the guy down in the hole? And in this game and on that touchdown, he couldn't, neither could Rapp.
You gotta win your one-on-one battle sometimes, right? Whether that's an offensive lineman beating a defensive lineman, a pass rusher, whether that's a pass rusher, interior guy beating his guy. I mean, You got to do that. And then when it comes time to making a tackle, you got to make a one-on-one tackle sometimes. That's the game, and you got to do it. And again, like I said, if you're not going to make the tackle sometimes, at least do enough to allow others to join you to make that tackle because they're flying to the football. There just hasn't been enough of that this year.
Yeah, and I would love to find some stat charting agency that has some kind of ability to chart, how often it's a solo tackle versus how much when there's population to the ball. Because again, a one gap system, everyone's doing their 111th. How many guys are actually at the ball when the ball does puncture the line of scrimmage? So one thing that came up in this game and that you've uncovered were the quarterback scrambles, and it's been a thing against this defense for years. So far this year, 6 rushes from Lamar Jackson for 70 yards and 1 touchdown. Fields, 5 rushes for 49 yards. Tua, 2 rushes for 10 yards. And Rattler, 6 rushes for 49 yards. I thought Rattler kind of caught the Bills off guard in this one when it came to scrambles, not necessarily designed runs. But what did you uncover for about the quarterback scrambles that we see versus the Bills, and maybe your theories on why the Bills surrender these type of plays so often?
Yeah, so I was just looking at some data today, and something that really kind of stood out to me were scramble yards by opposing QBs against the Bills. So I tweeted out the stat, and I'll read it to you here. One thing that's really hurt the Bills: opposing QBs have scrambled. These are not designed runs, by the way. These are scrambles. Guys, play breaks down. He scrambles for some yards. Opposing QBs have scrambled 11 times for 128 yards. That's 11.63. And by the way, that includes one where the Bills stopped them for a 2-yard gain.
Yeah.
So other than that, it's 10 times for 126 at 12.6 yards per carry. And of those 11 scrambles, 7 of them have actually resulted in first downs. I do think this is a point to make about Matt Milano being out. Matt Milano is a spy sometimes on a third down. He's a spy against more mobile quarterbacks sometimes. He's not out there right now. You can't, Dorian Williams has done it, but he's not the same athlete that Matt is when it comes to doing that and reading and understanding. And Shaq Thompson isn't that guy you're going to ask to do that. So I do think there's a point there. I also believe, because of what you said a little while ago, it's a one gap. It could be it's a penetrating system, whether you're one gap or two gap, whatever. The Bills run a penetrating type of system, and Joey Bosa's coming off the edge, and that leaves spacing, right? That leaves spacing. So if all of a sudden this guy's coming here, this guy's coming here, you look, there's windows. Now you can take off, and a guy can run for a little bit more yardage. And then there's some missed tackles along the way as well. Yeah. Now, the Lamar Jackson run when Bosa and Rousseau were right there, that factors into it. You get one like that, it's going to hurt the numbers. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
I did do the numbers, and the Bills have allowed like 620 something rushing yards this year. So that would be down to like low 500s. And it still wouldn't be great. It still wouldn't be great. I mean, you still have to do better than that. They'd still be near the bottom in yards per carry against them if it wasn't for these scrambles. But I remember in this game, Eric, after the first like 2 series, I remember saying to people around me on the sidelines, I think the Bills need to put a spy on Spencer Rattler. He was hurting him with his legs.
He was, and I think they did catch him off guard, and they didn't have that spy package, I always call it the odd mirror, where you're seeing 3 defensive linemen, then Matt Milano's kind of that 4th guy up on the line, but he eventually drops out, and as soon as the quarterback breaks a pocket, then he's aggressive, comes downhill. I think you may see that this week versus their opponent this week in Drake May, but I think that when it comes to, them surrendering these scrambles, a lot of times, you always hear, if a team's in man coverage, guys are chasing their guys down the field, quarterback gets, well, it's kind of the opposite for the Bills. The Bills don't play a lot of man coverage. They actually run a lot of zone. I think everyone knows that. But the problem is they are always trying to defend and minimize those explosive plays down the field and cap. And so they're playing those 2 high safety structures, and they're moving that back 7. They don't blitz a lot. So think about it. 4 rushers, 7 on the back end. They're moving those guys down the field spatially, trying to really take up all the routes. And so all those guys are running downfield, and then you just have a huge chasm between the pass rush and then that second and third level. And so the quarterback can, leak out a little bit, and then you throw in some, inability to maintain pass rush lanes by the 4 rushers. There's a lot of factors, but I think that is some of the main things where, hey, Bills are playing a lot of 2 high safety. They're trying to cap the explosive game, and they're trying to play zone. And you said 11 scrambles there. Of those 11 rushes, 9 of those plays were when the Bills were in zone coverage. 82% of those plays.
I'll give you another number that goes along with this. Try this. So on those scrambles, I can even break it down for you. This is crazy. And I don't know if there's some more analytical data you can even research into this of why, but a lot of it's come on second down. On 2nd and 3, 1 scramble for 27 yards. On 2nd and 8, 1 scramble for 20 yards. On 2nd and 10, 2 scrambles, total of 12 yards. So a good job there to keep them contained. Then on 3rd down, 2 for a total of 17 yards. So 2nd down scrambling is also, you put a team in 2nd down and all of a sudden, like maybe they're dropping back to pass and everything happens like you say, and now all of a sudden there's some room.
Yeah, no doubt. It was interesting to see and look at some of those stats. And I think it comes up every year with this defense. It's one of those things like, hey, screens, like the Bills always get screened and they struggle versus screens. I think a lot of the same factors kind of weigh in there when it comes to that. So this game, we saw the Bills rotate some players. One of them being Dorian Williams, Shaq Thompson, the other being Trey White and Dorian Strong. What's your takeaway from that rotation? They said it was planned, but is this something that you can expect to see going forward?
Yeah, so what's really interesting is now White and Strong, I do think that there was a plan to get him some time. I do, for Dorian Strong. And it wasn't as much as people think. Trey White still played a ton more snaps than Dorian Strong in this game. 51-15, I think, was the total snap count.
Yeah.
51-15. We were talking about this, and it's always game day in Buffalo, Matt Bove, and one of the commenters in the chat, thank you for all the commenting here.
Yeah.
Someone said, and I said, that's a really good point, and I think it's probably right. The Bills have some tough decisions coming up in the roster, and I think that they kind of use this game a little bit to see what life looks like with some of these decisions.
Yeah.
Right. And like, what does it mean? What if Curtis Samuel is active and what if he's not? Like, what does he bring to us? Because
is there a drop off? Is there not a drop off?
And if a guy comes back, are we okay with moving on from him? If there's too many guys at that position or another receiver, should we move on from that guy? Right. So I think that's part of it right there. What does it look like if we have to move on from Brandon Codrington because he doesn't help us on defense and he's just a return man? Do we have enough there? Matt made a great point on that, which is Sunday might have helped Brandon Codrington more than hurt him because the Bills didn't have much of a return game.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's all baked into some of the personnel decisions. And on top of that, Spencer Brown, Matt Milano, Ed Oliver, maybe a game where you say, okay, if we're going to do that, let's not rush these guys back. No one here is going to say the Bills were taking the Saints lightly and saying we can beat them. But let's be honest, Eric, you have a division game coming up against the New England Patriots, and these guys are a little banged up, and they're playing an NFC opponent that's winless. If there's a time to do that, instead of risking those guys, it would be that game.
No doubt. And I thought Dorian Strong, for the reps that he did play, I thought he was solid. I thought, there was one play where he was up near the line of scrimmage, and he stepped up and had to take on a pulling guard. He was good in zone, very good spatial and positional leverage. Awesome open field tackle on Kamara in the low red zone, basically saving a touchdown on the near sideline. He ended the game with 3 solo tackles, including 2 defensive stops, only allowing 2 receptions for 4 yards. I thought he had a strong game, and it's a good time. It was a good time to get him reps in this defense. And aside from him, give us an update on Max Hairston and where he's at and kind of the rules and protocol for him coming back.
For sure. And we had someone ask earlier if this is the game that Max Hairston makes his debut. No, I wouldn't think that at all. I mean, this guy, he hasn't practiced in over 2 months. So Max Hairston and Tyler Bass and Tylan Grable, by the way, are all eligible to start practicing this week if the Bills choose to do that. They do not have to start practicing this week. If they do start practicing because the team feels they're healthy enough, they would have then 21 days, not 3 games or 21 days to put them on the active roster and release someone off the active roster. So the Bills have to ask themselves, if we were to start Max Harrison practicing, is he actually going to be able to help us and be on a field in 21 days? And if the answer is no, then don't put him on the practice field.
Yeah. First
of all, you answer the number one question is he healthy enough to practice? Because you don't want to injure, you don't want to have anything go wrong there. Is he healthy enough to practice? If he is healthy enough to practice, you go to the second question is, okay, how long will it take him to ramp up? When will he be able to help us and be ready to play in a game? And even if that answer is 5 weeks from now, you could always make him inactive for a couple of weeks, but you have to remember they're going to have 3 weeks here to ramp these guys up when they decide that it's time for them to go back to practice. In the meantime, they can keep them on IR. They just can't practice until the team is ready to allow them to do that. So that's Max Hairston. That's Tyler Bass. That's Tylan Grable right now. And then the suspended guys are a little different. That's a couple more weeks. They actually were back at the facility last week because half their suspension was over. They can't practice yet, but they're back at the facility.
Good to know. Good to know. One player that stood out on the field in this game, big interception by Cole Bishop in this game. Great reward for, the time that he's had some struggles trying to stay healthy. Even in this game, there were some plays where one that comes to mind where he was supposed to be lined up on the left side of the defense, and Taylor Rapp's like, hey, and he couldn't because it was so loud. They're on defense. It was so loud. Bishop didn't get the call, and so Rapp had to replace him at a spot, making Bishop the post safety. So I think there's still some learning going on, but this game, 5 total tackles, 0 receptions allowed on 2 targets, an interception, 9 snaps at the line of scrimmage, 17 in the box overall, 31 at free safety. Talk about Cole Bishop's game and that interception he made.
It was right in front of me. I mean, people might know already when the ball is coming in towards, once it gets past like midfield, the 40 or 30 yard line, I go and try and stand right at the goal line in case there's a play there. I can see what's going on. And so I'm right at that goal line. I'm right at that pylon. Exact same spot I was when Mark Andrews dropped the ball last year, and I was able to pick it up, right? And it was like really cool to be right there. Anyway, this one was another one that went the Bills' way, because what I saw was, I'm watching the play develop. I see the end around, and then I see Rattler running at me. And I'm like, oh, he's going out for a pass, right? It's a Philly special. He's running out for a pass. I see this. I see Rattler coming at me. I'm watching. My eyes are at the backfield of the Saints. So I'm looking in the backfield right now because I see this happening, this action. So I can't see Cole because I'm not looking over there. But once this rolls and these guys start coming this way, that ball's in the air. See, right now I see Rattler running at me. I'm like, oh, Spencer Rattler's running right at me. Like, they're going to throw him the ball. He tosses the ball. No one, I don't think, saw Cole Bishop until this happens. Bam. Like,
my goodness. All
of a sudden, everybody who see the official, I'm literally like right next to the official. There's a person. There's me. That's my bald head, right on the right. And like everybody over here, you could hear a collective, oh, like, where did he come from? That kind of thing, right? And then when he got up and ran, I was like, oh my God, he's getting up and running. The Bills hurt themselves with a bad blindside block here that forced them to come back, or else they're going to have, decent field position to at least try and get the ball out of their own end zone to score. They had a couple of penalties there. What a great athletic play. But you know what I was most impressed of? The way he read the play. He was disciplined to stay where he's supposed to stay, do what he's supposed to do. The athletic play is terrific, but Cole is a great athlete. We know he can make that play.
Yes.
He's got to put himself in position to make that play, and he did it right there.
Yeah, from the shoulders up. Like, he's got the athletics. He's got the physical gifts. He's got to play from the shoulders up, and this is one of the plays. The best part about this is the very play before, Trey White, Cole Bishop, and Taylor Rapp did a great job of alerting to Shaheed being here and running that, reverse type play where he comes across the formation, but then he was going out to the flats. He tried leaking out to the flats, and you saw Bishop, White, and Rapp work together to shut that down. It was obviously something they saw on film. So on the very next play, the Saints are like, you know what? Okay, you guys are alerting to where Shaheed is. Well, guess what? We're going to do something similar and hope that you guys go with him. So they do, but then look at the eyes and helmet of Cole Bishop. Again, top of the screen right here. Look at how he's diagnosing that. He's seeing it unfold. He sees all that action in the backfield. And I'm right there. Let me go back a little bit. He peeks out in front right here. Okay, is there blockers? Is there anyone coming across? No. Okay, now, that they're handing it off. And good work by Rousseau. I think this goes without many people noticing, is making that throw go up and over him. That floating.
Great point. He might not be able to. He might have to throw it a little different than what he wanted to, simply because Greg Rousseau's in his window.
Right. And so then, yes, that athleticism kicks in, and you see that grab by Cole Bishop on third down, a big play towards the end of the first half for the Bills. One of those plays, again, the Bills haven't had many plays on the ball, many havoc plays, but when they have, it's been plays like that in crucial moments to take away points from the opposing offense. So again, the defense, there are some issues. There are some issues with stopping the run. And again, it's fundamental stuff. I agree with Terrell Bernard when he says it is fixable, it is correctable, but it's hard for us to believe that, because it does come up a little too often when we're talking about gap integrity and missing tackles.
Yeah, you're right. Someone said Bosa got his 4th forced fumble. That's 4 in 4 games. Pretty insane. It is. We were just kind of criticizing his edge contain a little bit earlier, but he still makes plays, man, when he's around the ball, right? It's pretty crazy. Joey Bosa, he can for sure about that. Yeah, I love how Cole has progressed here. I mean, Eric, look, Sean McDermott said it how many times, and people didn't want to hear it, but it's just true. The guy needed time. He needed time on the field. He needed to have reps. The biggest deterrent for Cole Bishop was the fact that he wasn't on the field. He needed to get on the field. Those things are invaluable. The reps are invaluable for a player like that.
So our producer, Colin Ritchie, sent us a message saying Adam Schefter is reporting that the Bills placed Cameron Johnson on IR and are signing Mitch Wisnowski. I don't know too much about him. I will say I got some stats for him. And according to his punting stats from last year with San Francisco, his net yards per punt was 36.3. So that's 39th. Not good, but some stats that really stood out to me just from taking a glance while we're live here. 47.8% of his punts last year in 2024 were inside the 20-yard line. That was ranked 9th overall among all the punters. 21.7% of his punts last year were put inside the 10-yard line. That is ranked 5th overall. And then inside the 5, 13% of the time, number 1 in the NFL. So I don't know too much about him aside from when he was coming out of the draft, but the Bills are apparently bringing him on. Hopefully he can hold the ball, for the kicker as well, right?
and he is a righty. We ask these things these days because there's a trend towards teams wanting a lefty punter maybe or something like that. And Belichick started that thing, but he is a righty punter. It's a shame for Cameron Johnson. It really is.
Yeah.
I just him getting hit like that. And if people don't know, Cam Johnson missed all of last year after tearing his ACL on the second punt of the season when he played for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He rehabbed all this way. And now he'll go on IR. Sean McDermott said Cameron Johnston, and then he went back and he said Cam again in his press conference yesterday. And several people took that as him meaning Cam Lewis because he's Cam and they always talk about him as Cam.
Yeah.
And just so everybody's clear on this, Cameron Johnston, also known as Cam Johnston, was the one who was hurt. Cam Lewis, to our knowledge, is not hurt. So He did also mention that Dorian Williams had something going on during the game, which is why Shaq Thompson was playing, but he didn't include him in his injury update. So I'm hoping that just means that whatever it was in the game, it's nothing to be concerned about.
And it did look that way early in the fourth quarter. He kind of got targeted a couple of times in the pass game, and he was not as explosive. So, I didn't notice it honestly until I rewatched it, and then you saw, the last few drives. Shaq Thompson was in there, and he actually did pretty good. He's a reliable linebacker to have in there. And so it'll be interesting to see once Matt Milano gets healthy, kind of back to that conversation we had early in the year is when that third linebacker is called onto the field, who will it be? Shaq Thompson or Dorian Williams? But we'll see. It all depends on Matt Milano's health and that question going forward. So with that said, before we get out of here, one last question for you.
Yeah.
Arrow ups, arrow down. Anyone else that we didn't really get to talk about in length that you want to give kudos to in this game?
You know what? I'm trying to just let me go back on what I wrote here so I can make sure I didn't forget anything specifically here. Who'd I give an arrow up and down to? All right, here we go. Well, hey, we went this whole show and we didn't talk about the quarterback, right?
I know.
And Josh was good in this game.
He
was in control. He was efficient. He was effective. He made plays when needed to be made. He put on the cape when he needed to put on the cape. But Eric, he threw close to 80% completion. He was 16 of 22. Well, over 70%, 72.3%, 209 yards, 2 touchdowns. And obviously he ran one in on the ground. So, I think you'd agree with me. Another guy we did not talk about, Deion Walker. I thought he was really, really good at the point of attack. Yeah. I know you put some stuff out about him as well. And I just think he deserves a little bit of love and credit here for the game that the Bills might have a real find here in Deion Walker, a 4th round pick.
I think they do. And, a lot of times when you draft a guy with his physical gifts, right? Obviously his size, his length, and his quickness for a guy his size. A lot of times it's like, okay, how is he from the shoulders up? Obviously TJ Sanders and Deion Walker have had to play a lot inside this year, and part of they are also part of the reason why there are struggles against the run. But Deion Walker's physical gifts have obviously been standing out. His ability to get off of the ball, to swim blocks, to recognize, then swim. We're just seeing him make impact plays. You're not getting as many from TJ Sanders, especially against the run, but there are some pass rushes from TJ Sanders where you're like, oh, he's close. And I think as he starts to recognize some of the pass blocking protections and some of how teams are trying to block up their pass plays, I think TJ Sanders is going to flash even more. But Deion Walker has been phenomenal. He's been better than I expected, especially if we're talking early on in his career.
No doubt. And the Bills have had to use him and TJ Sanders. We'll see how it changes in a few weeks from now. But they are getting very valuable reps as this team is winning, and that's a good thing.
All right. With that said, let's get out of here. Sal, let everyone know the schedule this week, what's going on, and what you got coming out.
All right, normal Wednesday schedule. It's a Sunday night game, but the Bills on a regular leading into Sunday schedule. So Wednesday, we'll hear from Sean McDermott before practice. That's right around noon. Practice at noon. Same thing on Thursday. No Sean, but practice after that. And then, of course, the game Sunday Night Football rivalry night game against the Patriots. Wearing the rivalry jerseys. Should be great weather. And of course, you can follow me along and listen WGR Sports Radio 550. I'll be on tomorrow morning, and then with the guys throughout the day and everything. And of course, go Yankees.
I like it. I like it. This has been Turf to Tape presented by Thin Man Brewery. I'm your host, Eric Turner. That's Sal Capaccio. We'll see you next week.